Stuart, you said testimonies. Anybody got a testimony to share from the week?
Yeah.
Go.
As you all knew from last week, I went to the hospital for what's it called? A mammogram. Yeah. And they did a scan as well. I think, about whether I had a lump in my breast. And they did find that everybody found a lump. But when I had the mammogram, there was nothing there. There was no cancer whatsoever. And when the lady was scanning, she said, I can see it, but I don't know what it is. So she got this other doctor to come in and have a look. And the doctor was there for ages. And she goes, I don't know what it is. Have you had a bang? I said, no. She said, well, I think it's coming from your shoulder, but I don't know. So, okay. So I went away. But I think what I really want to share is the road to that. Because I really think God's been showing me something through it. I've been praying for this girl. I've never met her, but she's a young girl. She's only young. She's got terminally ill cancer. I've put it on the prayer thing once, a picture of her. She's had, nobody is speaking hope or anything over her. She's got cancer throughout her body. And she had to have this baby delivered quickly, and they weren't sure whether that had cancer, was carrying. I can't get this girl out of my head. And she had lymph node cancer and everywhere. And I've been waking up in the night even praying for her, just randomly, and then going back to sleep. And I've done every prayer. I've been into the courts of heaven with her. I broke off premature death. I've done all of that. And this pain that I got just came on me and got really intense. And it was in my neck. It was across my back, right down to my fingertips. Yeah. And I felt this one day, I felt so ill. And I was like, God, what is this? And the only thing I got was, this is not yours. Just that.
Yeah.
And I started, because I know that was God speaking to me, I started to declare that over myself. And, I had Cloud Cafe pray, and I told them about that sentence. Liz and Evelyn prayed for me as well. And it wouldn't go away. I was declaring it. Every time the pain came, I was declaring it, that this is not me. This is not mine. And actually, I can wave my arm about like I couldn't do that before. I'm like doing this while I'm praying.
You're going to hit Les?
I'm like, if you're going to hurt now. I've got a teeny tingle. That's all that's left. And I keep declaring that this is not mine. And I think, is it like a word of knowledge that you get, and you get a pain for somebody? Because I have become so intense at praying for this girl, have I sort of had that word of knowledge on me, and I've had to get it off? So yeah, I just think it's really been a learning process for me. I'm supposed to go back to the doctors tomorrow for a blood test, and I've got to tell the doctor that we don't know what this is, but I can't actually feel the lump where it was easy to feel before, and I've been poking, and I'm like, I can't flipping well find it.
Come on.
So I'm like, yeah. So I go to the doctor, said, forget having an x-ray or whatever you're going to do next. So it's all gone, but I'll see what happens. I'm just like, it's just like a journey. And I think we're all on a journey at the minute.
Yeah.
Of things changing. The world's changing, and I think we have to change as well.
We have to change.
And we have to be more aware and not accept things and expect bigger things. So yeah, I'm just sharing that because I just, I feel so good.
Come on. I love it. I love it.
I'm excited at what God's doing in this time.
Yeah.
Because we need more wisdom. We need more discernment.
We do.
And we need more glory and more power. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I've been reading Chris Vallotton's book, Spiritual Intelligence, and he talks in there about how the divide between the material world and the spiritual world is actually not as separate as we think it is, and I think some of what you're hitting on is that you're warring in the spiritual, in the heavenly places for this girl, and it's having a physical effect, and it's learning how you navigate that physical effect, so that this, you keep, so you keep you're able to keep warring, and I think there's a lot in that, and I think God is. God is all on a bit of a fast track at the moment, teaching us some stuff if we're willing to hear and willing to listen. So yeah, thanks, Viv. That's really helpful to share that. Anybody else got another testimony before we talk together about something else?
I mean, it's a very different one from that Viv has just wonderfully shared. But just I was out doing stuff in the garden, and as I came back into the house, Liz was stood on our drive talking to our neighbour. You might think that special or whatever else, but two things. Liz probably doesn't find it all that easy to talk to people that she doesn't know as well. She's not really a small talker and things. And also our neighbours, who are lovely and we've always got on well with, have never really sort of engaged in further conversation with us. It's always been good morning, that's been it, sort of thing, not much more than that. But because that's really shifted, it's really changed. We were commenting on that actually now people are stopping and talking to us, and that is because of some of the things we've done about just we went and dropped off flowers and Easter eggs and all these sort of things, and it's made a practical atmospheric shift to where we live. And I know that's because of what we're doing in spiritual declaration and everything else. But it's a testimony to keeping on doing what he's asked us to do. And of course we will absolutely, Viv, I want to see supernatural breakthrough. I want to see disease cursed as it, and the cost of it dealt with as it has been at the cross. Absolutely. We've also got to keep doing the faithful things, talking to the neighbours, being the people who bring peace. And that brings breakthrough. And we were just, as soon as we started talking about it, we said, actually, we're going to do something at Christmas. At Christmas, as soon as we can have people can meet again outside, we're going to plan just a little carol concert on our street. I'm just encouraged to sort of keep on being, we want to be people who make a difference.
I thought one of the interesting things was that she asked me about church. Yeah, she did. So we were chatting about. She was asking me about Becca and how she was doing, and I was asking. They've got a grandchild that was born during the pandemic. So I was asking about that, and her elderly parents and all those sort of things. And then she said, "Oh, how are you coping with church?" And so then I shared what we'd been doing, and that we had been meeting, but obviously this week we were doing it on Zoom, but we hoped very soon to be meeting live again. And I just thought it was interesting. She then bounced the conversation quickly off onto something else, but the fact that she even asked me, I thought was really interesting at all, because they've never, it's particularly these neighbours have never asked about church before. Some of our other neighbours have done. So God is on the move, and it's an interesting time. So any final calls for testimony before I leap in? Are we ready for me to leap in?
Yeah, just a quick one. You've only mentioned Graham a few times. A friend of mine at one of the sites that I go to. He goes to a CV. He's the youngest person there. We had a good conversation a couple of weeks ago, and he's lacking spiritually. He once said that he wants what I've got, so he's obviously seeing things in me. And he asked me if I find a church for him. So I got in contact with a mate of mine, and he got back in touch with me a week later, and he gave me 2 churches that are near his location.
Brilliant.
Salford. So I saw him yesterday, gave him both the addresses, and they were asking me, well, how can I get in touch with them? I said, well, they'll have websites, blah, blah, blah. So straight away, he wanted the church to where my other friend goes. So hopefully, he can go and get spiritually filled. Start a new journey.
Yeah. Well done, Paul. You're doing really great at sharing your faith with people and encouraging people who've kind of got lost, those who've drifted away, to kind of come back. So well done. That's amazing.
Just saying God's on the move. Both of the two tradesmen I've been working with, Andre Drodds and my plasterer Neil Ross, they've both been interested in my faith as well. So that's been quite an eye opener for me as well, because Andre is a Ukrainian Catholic background.
Oh, interesting.
But he was born in the UK, so his father emigrated after the war. So, but it really is interesting to see that how open they are and how much fun they are as well. Because I respect them and they respect me, which is. I mean, he keeps telling me not to stop apologizing as well. Stop apologizing for your faith. Stop apologizing for this. Stop apologizing for that. And it's been really interesting. So, fun.
Come on. Good stuff. Encouraging stuff. Okay. Are we ready, Stuart?
Yeah.
Okay. So today, I'm going to talk about a topic that I have not heard anybody else give a sermon about. Now that might just be my church background, I don't know, but we'll see when I get to it whether any of you have. Obviously, today's Remembrance Day. Obviously, we're in the middle of this pandemic. We're in the middle of an economic crisis. We are in interesting times. I think we would all agree with that. And all these things create in us lots of emotion, don't they? They for some of people, it's created emotion of not knowing what's going on, of fear, of uncertainty. For others of us, we are holding on to God and we are seeing his goodness and greatness in this time. But I want to talk this morning about the topic of lament. That's the topic that I want to speak about this morning. I don't know why, but my PowerPoint is not working, Stuart. So how many of you have heard anybody talk about lament in the past? No, Stuart's putting up his hand here, but I honestly, I've never heard a sermon on lament. And so if I had to look up what lament is, so I looked it up in the dictionary. So it said, lament is a passionate expression of grief or sorrow. And when we look at the Bible, there's actually a good chunk of the Bible is given over to lament. So obviously we have Lamentations, which is very much given over to lament, whole 5 chapters of lament there. There are 42 out of the 150 Psalms are lament psalms, 42 lament psalms, and there is the book of Job, which again has plenty of lament in it, and there probably are scattered throughout the rest of the Bible lament as well, but I'm not going to go through all of those. But it's not just an Old Testament thing, because actually Jesus quotes lament in the New Testament, and I'll share one of those examples later on. So he actually laments as well and expresses lament. So why do we have lament in the Bible? Well, firstly, I think we have lament because life is not easy. Let's be honest. God includes lament in the Bible because he wants us to understand that it's okay to acknowledge that life isn't always easy. I read through Lamentations recently. I just felt God prompting me to read it, and so I read through the 5 chapters a couple of times and paused, and then I watched the Bible Project video on Lamentations, and there were things that I didn't know about Lamentations, like it's each of the 5 chapters is actually 5 separate poems. I don't know whether you knew that. They're 5 separate poems, and they each take a slightly different theme in the poem, but they're all lament. And they're all an acrostic, so they all start with, each bit of the poem starts in 4 of the chapters, the first 4 chapters, with one of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and in those first 4 chapters, the poems are an acrostic, but in the last chapter it's not. It's kind of this kind of much more chaotic, less structured poem, almost as if the writer of Lamentations, by the time he gets to number 5, his grief and his sorrow has overwhelmed him so much that he can't kind of keep it together anymore in his writing. And each poem portrays people hurting, people grieving, the destruction that's going on around them. But Lamentations is written as God's people are being taken off by the Babylonians, and Jerusalem is being destroyed, and so there's massive grief because Jerusalem was meant to be this place of connection and presence and prosperity, and suddenly it's a place of destruction and pain, and those leaders that were meant to lead them into this prosperity are now taken off to Babylon. And right in verse 2, chapter 1, verse 9, it says, her filthiness clung to her skirts. She did not consider her future. Her fall was astounding. There was none to comfort her. Look, Lord, on my affliction, for the enemy has triumphed. It's not a pretty picture at all, this picture that is portrayed in Lamentations. Yes, it might be written in a very sort of poetic way, and it is written in a very poetic way. Jerusalem is portrayed as this woman who is in desolation and in a really difficult place. But she's portrayed as this woman who has filthy skirts, who doesn't know what is happening to her, who has no one around to comfort her. She's in this place of isolation. And it feels to the writer like the enemy has triumphed in that moment, that actually the enemy has had the upper hand. So it's not a pretty picture. There's not, it might be written poetically, but it paints a picture of utter desolation and isolation. In Psalm 22, verse 1, it says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of anguish? And you probably recognise that verse, because actually that's one of the verses of lamentation, of a lament that Jesus speaks out on the cross. He actually says it, doesn't he? He says, my God, why have you forsaken us? And I don't think he was saying that because he was going, tick, I've fulfilled another prophecy. He was saying it because that was his genuine expression of grief and sorrow and anguish at that moment on the cross. And if Jesus is expressing this emotion, and if he's quoting from Old Testament passages of lament, then he's showing us it's okay to express these very strong, very core emotions that we can have. Now, over the years, I've been involved in pastoral work for, more years than I would like to admit to. And I did counselling, and obviously now I'm involved in Sozo and still doing pastoral work. And I have seen that so many people in our culture have no way to express their emotion, that their emotions are bottled up and causing them so much destruction. And often that comes out in very unhelpful ways, ways like road rage. But actually it also comes out in ways like depression and other mental health issues and physical issues. I know that recent research has said somewhere between 70 and 90% of all illnesses, not certain illnesses, all illnesses have a psychological impact. So, are there because they have a psychological impact. Obviously, all illnesses cause a psychological impact, but it's that they're there because of a psychological aspect to them. And so lament shows us that it's okay to be real to God. But the second question that I want us to look at is lament moaning? Is lament moaning? Lament is not moaning. Now, I think in the UK, we're super good at moaning. I think, when the shops are open, you can go and stand in any shop and you will hear somebody moaning about the state of, the government, the roads, the education system, the health system. There will be moaning about something or someone or somebody that is happening in the, somebody will be moaning. That is just what unfortunately happens. And it kind of comes from that place of people thinking that they're a victim, doesn't it? That life, woe is me, life is unfair, life is wrong, pain shouldn't happen to me. And it often isn't expressed in very helpful or very nice ways. But I don't believe that that moaning and lament are the same thing. I think moaning is when we just are stuck in this kind of place of being a victim. I think lament is when we express that grief and that pain to God and we share it with him. So in Lamentations 2 verse 22 it says, "My eyes fail from weeping, I am in torment within. My heart is poured out on the ground because my children are destroyed." Because children and infants faint in the streets of the city. It's not a pretty picture. It's a picture of... Yeah, sorry, we're just going to have to reset the camera. I don't know why it stopped working, so I'll just pause for a second. Forgive us.